On January 10th, 2026, the music world lost one of its most legendary figures. Bob Weir, the founding member and rhythm guitarist of the iconic Grateful Dead, passed away at the age of 78. But this isn't just a story about an ending. This is a story about a life that defined an entire generation of music, culture, and rebellion. This is the story of Bobby Weir. For over 6 decades, Bob Weir was more than just a musician. He was a cultural phenomenon, a pioneer of psychedelic rock, and the heartbeat of one of America's most influential bands. From playing in dive bars in San Francisco to performing at the world-famous Sphere in Las Vegas, Weir's journey is nothing short of extraordinary. And right now, as tributes pour in from around the globe, his legacy has never been more relevant. So buckle up, because we're diving deep into the long, strange trip of Bob Weir. Let's rewind to 1947. San Francisco, a city that would later become the epicenter of the counterculture movement. Bob Weir was born as Robert Hall Parber, but was given up for adoption and raised by Frederick and Eleanor Weir. Growing up in the Bay Area during the 1950s and 60s, young Bobby was drawn to music like a moth to flame. By 1964, at just 16 years old, Weir met a guitarist named Jerry Garcia. The two joined forces in a folk music group called Mother McCree's Uptown Jug Band. But folk wasn't enough to contain their creative energy. They wanted something electric, something raw, something that could capture the spirit of a generation ready to break free from convention. In May 1965, everything changed. Weir and Garcia teamed up with Phil Lesh on bass, Ron Pigpen McKernan on keyboards, and Bill Kreutzmann on drums. They called themselves the Warlocks. But when they discovered another band was using that name, Jerry Garcia found a phrase in a dictionary that would change music history forever: the Grateful Dead. And just like that, at 17 years old, Bob Weir became a founding member of what would become one of the most legendary rock bands of all time. Here's what made Bob Weir special. While most guitarists of his era were obsessed with flashy solos and technical showmanship, Weir took a different path. He became a master of rhythm guitar, creating a distinctive style of chording and strumming that became the foundation of the Grateful Dead's sound. He wasn't competing with Jerry Garcia's soaring lead guitar. Instead, he was building the architecture that allowed Garcia to fly. His unconventional playing style, full of jazz-influenced chords and unexpected rhythmic patterns, gave the Grateful Dead their signature sound that millions would come to worship. And then there was his voice. Raw, emotional, full of whoops and hollers that contrasted perfectly with Garcia's smooth delivery. Songs like Sugar Magnolia, Truckin', One More Saturday Night, and Cassidy became anthems sung by generations of fans. Listen to the opening lines of Cassidy, a song from his 1972 solo album Ace. I have seen where the wolf has slept by the silver stream. I can tell by the mark he left you were in his dream. Ah, child of countless trees. That's pure poetry. That's the kind of lyrical magic that Bob Weir and his collaborators like John Perry Barlow created together. It wasn't just music, it was storytelling, mythology, and philosophy all rolled into one. But the Grateful Dead were more than just a band. They were a movement. They created something that had never existed before. A touring culture where fans, known as Deadheads, would follow the band from city to city, creating a traveling community of peace, love, and music. The Dead pioneered concepts that are now standard in the music industry. They encouraged bootlegging before anyone else. They built a merchandise empire. They turned touring into an art form. By 1995, they had drawn more concert-goers than any other act in the history of the music business. And Bob Weir was at the center of it all. Night after night, year after year, for 3 decades straight, he was on stage, pouring his heart into every performance. Even when he forgot lyrics, which happened occasionally, the crowd would erupt in thunderous applause. Because it wasn't about perfection, it was about the experience, the connection, the moment. The Grateful Dead were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1994. They received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. They hold the record for the most Billboard Top 40 albums of all time, 66 albums. Think about that. 66 albums in the top 40. That's a record that still stands today. Then came August 9th, 1995. Jerry Garcia died at age 53, and the world wondered, could the Grateful Dead survive without its most iconic member? For many bands, the answer would have been no, but Bob Weir wasn't ready to let the music die. While he could have retired comfortably and lived off the legacy, he chose a different path. He chose to keep the spirit of the dead alive. Weir formed various projects over the years, but the most successful was Dead & Company, founded in 2015. Alongside fellow Dead members Mickey Hart and Bill Kreutzmann, plus a new generation of musicians including John Mayer on guitar, Weir brought the Grateful Dead's music to a whole new audience. And here's where it gets incredible. Over the past decade, Dead & Company performed more than 350 shows and completed 10 national tours. They broke attendance records at Wrigley Field, Fenway Park, and Oracle Park. They set venue records with 10 shows at Wrigley Field, 13 at Folsom Field, and 11 at Citi Field. But the crown jewel? Dead Forever, Live at Sphere in Las Vegas, a groundbreaking residency that sold 477,000 tickets across 48 shows and grossed nearly $200 million. Rolling Stone called it the most dazzling visual show in Grateful Dead history. In August 2025, something special happened. Dead & Company returned to San Francisco, where it all began 60 years earlier, for 3 sold-out shows in Golden Gate Park celebrating the Grateful Dead's 60th anniversary. Fans came from all 50 states and 16 countries to witness history. On August 3, 2025, Bob Weir took the stage for what would be his final performance. The setlist was emotional, the crowd electric, and when they closed with Touch of Grey, that song of resilience and hope, nobody knew they were witnessing the end of an era. Just weeks before those shows, Weir had been diagnosed with cancer, but true to his spirit, he battled through it, beat it, and gave his fans one last gift. As his family's statement beautifully put it, he transitioned peacefully, surrounded by loved ones after courageously beating cancer as only Bobby could. Ultimately, it was underlying lung issues that took him from us on January 10, 2026. So what does Bob Weir leave behind? A net worth of $60 million? Sure. Awards and accolades? Absolutely. Kennedy Center honors, Grammy Awards, Hall of Fame inductions. But that's not the real legacy. Bob Weir's true legacy is in the millions of lives he touched. It's in the 3-generation families who bonded over Dead shows. It's in the musicians he inspired to push boundaries and reject conventional wisdom. It's in the community he built, a community that proved music could be more than entertainment. It could be a way of life. In a March 2025 interview with Rolling Stone, Weir shared his thoughts on death with remarkable peace. I look forward to dying. I tend to think of death as a reward for a life well lived. Those words hit differently now, because if there was ever a life well lived, it was Bob Weir's. Bob Weir once said that the songs the Grateful Dead played were living critters that came from another dimension to visit this world and tell their stories. And maybe that's the perfect metaphor for Bob's life itself. He came into this world, told his story through 6 decades of groundbreaking music, touched millions of souls, and now he's moved on to whatever comes next. But the music never dies. From a 16-year-old kid playing in San Francisco coffee houses to a 78-year-old legend performing at the most technologically advanced venue in the world, Bob Weir lived the ultimate rock and roll life. He wasn't just a musician. He was a poet, a pioneer, a cultural icon, and a reminder that the greatest journeys are often the strangest ones. Rest in peace, Bobby. The music will play on forever. What a long, strange trip it's been.